Welcome to the HR Happy Hour work break. It's an early work break, but here we are, Steve Bowes. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Trish, how are you?
I'm
Back
good.
after a little holiday long weekend hiatus. Feel like we haven't done one of these in a while.
I know if we miss now, it feels like it's a really long time. I was thinking though, as I was getting ready for you to join the live stream, it's like I'm looking at my hair and I thought, if you look back, because we've been doing these over a year now, it's like the evolution of my hair, a short, long, it's been like a short, whatever, long now, and your beard. That's really how you can tell how well how
Yeah,
well or how poorly we're handling the pandemic. It's
I
like,
shaved the other day for the
yeah,
first
it's
time in a
gone.
while, and but I did it for a reason. I needed to record a couple of videos for a couple of different projects,
Ah, okay.
and I didn't do the videos. So now, like, I shaved and I wrote the script for one of the videos, but I didn't actually record it, and so
Oh
I
my
kind of
gosh.
spoiled myself. I may have to
It'll grow back.
reshave again. Trish, today's June 2nd, by the way. I had the news on
It
this.
is.
You know what today
Okay.
is? And I don't know if it's really applicable, at least certainly not to us and maybe a lot of people who are still working from home. But June 2nd, Trish, is National Leave the Office Early Day, according
Really?
to the folks who keep track of the days
Well,
of the year and the month.
I am
Leaving.
happy to accommodate that. I have one of my son's high school baseball games this afternoon, but then I have work afterwards. Like I have work called.
I've got a meeting this afternoon that I have to do, and I think I'm kind of blowing out
We're
after.
on there together. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When that when that meeting is over,
exactly.
I think I'm done. I think I'm suffering a bit this week from kind of long weekend sluggishness. Do you ever get that? Like when you have that long holiday weekend, a lot of
Hmm.
people even extended the Memorial Day weekend
Yeah.
a lot of folks took Friday off even before in the run up to the long weekend. And so when we had the long weekend and I did a whole lot of nothing, which was awesome. But yeah, I think like I've had a hard time, yesterday and today getting back in the groove.
I wonder too. I was thinking that too, because when I went on vacation just a couple weeks ago now, and I really truly didn't work. I barely worked, like 5-10 minutes worked. And normally I at least work a little bit on vacation. It's hard to get back in the groove. Like once you've really not been working for 4 or 5 days, it's like, oh my gosh, I have to actually. But you know what, Steve? Speaking of work, we've been busy. We have our accessibility survey, which is out getting phenomenal feedback already. I have over the last time I looked, we have over 76 pages of like open answer responses to things. I'm like, oh my gosh, people really have a lot to say about accessibility, which is great. Thank you. But we have a report coming out next week as well. We've decided to kind of go against the grain. Me, you, George Larac, Madeline Lorano, and Karen Hunter. We're doing not a trends report, but just more of a state of where things are in the workplace right now with technology and where we are going to try and crystal ball this a little bit, right? But we're going to do it in 18-month increments. And I think that, not to knock anybody that does it annually, but I almost feel like that's too quick, So because I mean, look, real trends, in my opinion, that's more of a longer term thing. It's not something that's just a quick hit, right? You have to give it time to see, is it actually going to be kind of picked up on? So anyway, so that comes out, I believe we're going to have it out on Monday. So
Okay.
we will certainly let everyone know. It'll be free to the public, but it's research based on what you and I have done, research Karen Hunter has done. George Larac, of course, is bringing in kind of all of the big picture HR tech market investments and where the money is actually going, as well as some other things he's got on his mind. And then Madeline Lorano, of course, has been doing tons of great research around, especially, both recruitment marketing, talent acquisition, anything to do with kind of the beginning part of the employee life cycles. Yeah, it'll be exciting.
Exciting. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. We'll make sure to get the word out of that. Yeah,
then we can take a break after all this work.
And so I mentioned I used a long weekend. It's a little sluggish. I did not work over the weekend. I did read I finished a book, Trish. I decided I haven't been reading enough lately, like proper books. So a couple weeks ago, I ordered this book called The Premonition by Michael Lewis, who you may know, Trish, as the author of Moneyball and The Big Short and a number of other books.
Oh, so yeah, of course.
The same guy, Michael Lewis. And so this book's about it's not light reading. It's a pandemic story, kind of, but it's stuff.
Really?
highly recommend the book because there's a ton of stuff in there. And I watched a lot of news, especially the first half of last year, right? Just because everything was so crazy and so new. And it was important to, I thought at the time, to try to stay informed as best I could. But there's like literally hundreds of pages of stuff going on in this book about the response to the pandemic, talking about the contributions of a whole bunch of people, mostly doctors, but not all, that we don't even know who they are, right? We know who the people who were on TV all year and continue to be on TV.
True.
We know Dr. Fauci, and we know some of those other folks we've seen for a year plus now, right? But there's a whole bunch of other people who did some really interesting and important work that no one knows their name, like I didn't anyway. And it's also kind of a bit like, there was a lot of major screw ups as well, both before and during the pandemic. And we sort of know that. And so the book talks about some of those too. But just this idea of this kind of group of folks who came together almost like unofficially, but had lots of expertise in epidemiology and virology and kind of what they did behind the scenes. So really, really good book. Recommend if you need some beach reading coming up this summer.
So now you're saying it's, I mean, obviously about the pandemic. So it's literally brand new. I mean, it's a hardback, obviously, hardcover. So this was written during the pandemic then? Or is it just in theory about the pandemic?
Well, it's kind of about preparedness and planning, kind of. Okay. So most of the book is set, most of the narrative of the book takes place before the pandemic, even going back as far as kind of, like the SARS, the first coronavirus, or maybe the first one, but that SARS outbreak that happened. There's some stuff in there about how Ebola was handled, or in different places. And
I would find that fascinating.
Yeah, and it's just the idea that there were really good strategies available, right, to try to attack this, but kind of some of the things we know a little bit: hesitancy, indecision, lack of leadership, like kind of, and it talks a lot about the pandemic of 1918, specifically about how two different cities in the U.S., Philadelphia and your city, your home city of St. Louis, responded differently to the 1918 pandemic, and how they had pretty different outcomes as well. And basically saying if you responded much more slowly, which is what happened in Philadelphia, lots more people got sick and died. And if you responded more quickly and more vigorously, like what happened in St. Louis back in 1918, many fewer people got sick and died, right? And so, and they try to make an argument, some of these folks in the book are making this argument, hey, all you got to do is study what happened in 1918 to know what we need to do now. But that still wasn't kind of good enough in many respects. So anyway, it was pretty cool. Now I need to find another book to read, though. Maybe something a little lighter for the beach this summer.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for sharing that. I actually would be interested in reading that. And I think I like the perspective of having like other outbreaks and how they've been handled is fascinating. I'm just finished with the show Victoria, about Queen Victoria on Amazon Prime. 4 seasons. It's really good. But in the last season there, it talks about how there were the outbreaks of cholera. So this is back in, the mid 1800s in England, and it's talking about outbreaks there and how they handled it. It's interesting that it's very similar without technology, and they knew very little, obviously, compared to what we know nowadays about viruses and how they're spread. But like they would actually get a map of the city and go by block and like make a line on each house for each person that died.
Wow.
And track, like visually track it. So and then try and, quarantine. And so it was interesting just to think, hundreds of years ago, people were dealing with this in a very similar way. We haven't really evolved the way we respond necessarily. So I don't know what that says about us, but we could do better.
Yeah, maybe the next pandemic will have a better response. Hopefully it's another 100 years plus away from now. So
absolutely. Well, hey, listen, I know we're coming up on 10 minutes. Any last little quick bites you got there? Or?
The biggest thing that's going to happen in sort of work and workplaces these next 6 months are going to be the return to work tension. I'm going to throw this one stat at you, Trish. Nearly 40% of employees will consider resigning if they are forced to return to offices, workplaces full time, according to some recent Bloomberg survey data, Trish. Dragging people back into workplaces, maybe against their wishes, is going to be the most interesting sort of second half of this year's story, I think.
I like the way they phrase that as they would consider resigning. So it'll be interesting to see how many actually do. I think you're right. And actually might even be higher than that, would actually consider it. But I know a few people here locally who have gone back to work at least like 2-3 days back in their office or workplace, whatever, if it's not an office environment, and are not happy about it. And not just because of fear of getting sick, because these people are vaccinated and it's, that fear has gone down quite a bit. It's like you're kind of alluding to. It's more the world has changed. We've changed. We've proven that we can do a lot more from home. So
Absolutely.
I don't know. Personally, I'm ready to get back on the road. I can't wait for the fall to get here with some of these events and things where we can be in person with our clients and just really, out talking with people. So I miss people. I'm here in this little office far too often. So anyway, well, listen, hey, have a good rest of your day. I know like we said, we've got some more calls to do this afternoon, but I think we should take off after that final call.
Leave the office early day. That's my recommendation.
Leave the office early day. There you go, June 2nd. Hey, everyone. Thanks for always listening, tuning in. We love talking with you 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We're a little early today, but it's usually you can find us around noon Eastern. And you can also find us anywhere you get your favorite podcasts. So Apple, iTunes, Spotify, you name it. Come subscribe to the HR Happy Hour network shows, and we will see you back here in 2 days. Have a great day.